still don't do anything. I wait for something like...
Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Kathy Klotz-Guest. I'm the founder of Keeping It Human, and welcome to the Yes and Brand Show, where we talk about brands and companies that are just saying yes to possibility and doing cool things. And I'm very excited today because today's guest is somebody I've known for a long time. He's a dear friend. I can't say old, can't use that word. He's a dear friend, and I love him to pieces. Shel Israel. Shel is a partner in Transformation Group, and he is the co-author with Robert Scoble of The Fourth Transformation, and lots of subtitle. It is a great book, and I think this actually, you and Robert, this is your third, am I right?
This is our third together. I've written 7 overall.
Yes.
But whenever Robert's name is on the cover, it actually sells more books. So I love having Robert as my co-author.
Well, I love when you and Robert get together because not only do you guys make a fantastic writing team, but you guys crack me up. You're like the odd couple of technology. and I'm guessing who's Oscar and who's Felix. I'm just guessing here. But you guys crack me up because you seem to have just a lot of fun together. You have a great rapport, you have a great chemistry, but you just have a lot of fun together.
Usually.
Yeah.
Every now and then. I've been known to turn to Robert and say, would you just shut up for a minute? His feelings get hurt. And one time when I wouldn't stop talking, he's larger than me. He just walked directly in front of me. So I responded by walking in front of him. And you can picture how it ended at the edge of the stage.
Yeah. No, he's a big guy. I remember being at a couple of your launch parties and just fun. You guys just have a lot of fun. You do make a great writing team. And I think it's always fun reading your books because I think they're always visionary and they're always looking into the future. And I think that's one thing that you guys have always done really well. And I know with this book, it's really focused on mixed realities as the future of technology. And I live in distorted reality. I don't need any hardware for that. I'm good. I'm good with that. Let's just jump on in because it's such a great book. It's such a great read. Again, it's the Fourth Transformation, everybody, by Shel and Robert Scoble. There's such hype, I think, around VR. There has been hype around VR for a number of years. And we're still seeing that it's expensive. It's branded content. It's advertising. It seems to be the purview of companies that have big studios and a lot of money. And where do you see VR storytelling breaking out of gaming and maybe going a little bit more mainstream, and when? So where do you think that's going to happen, Shel, and when?
Soon. So let me back up to the other parts to your question. In terms of AR and VR, I'm just going to say MR most of the time, and I'm talking about 3 distinct and often confused technologies: augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality, which is more sophisticated. It's been around much longer than people realize. It's been in industrial use since the 1990s when Boeing used it to wire the 747. So now we've come to a point where there's a great deal of excitement. Cynics might call that hype. But there is a lot that has happened since something that was touted as a failure, and in one way it was. Google Glass came out. Robert and I put it on the cover of a book. We got kidded a great deal about it because it was an absolute marketing disaster, and it should have been. It cost $1,500. It made you look like Jean-Luc Picard with the funny eye, but no hair, but with hair. Some of us have hair, at least. And what happened is what should have happened. They launched a developer's product with no battery, no applications, with skydiving and runway models and subway rides, and the thing crashed and burned as a product. But all over the world, technologists just emerging into the marketplace looked at that thing and said, that could be, I could make, we could do, and all of a sudden this stuff started happening in lots of places, the U.S. being one of them, China being even more than us. And right now it has already moved rapidly through the evolutionary swamp It isn't there yet.
Right.
Eventually, we're all going to have something that looks like what I have sitting on my nose. Wait a minute. Should I rephrase that? These glasses. It's going to look like that. And it is going to do VR. It's going to do AR. It's going to do whatever we want it to be. We're going to watch movies with it. We're going to be social with it. Instead of you and I separated by blocks and screens, you're going to be sitting over, oh, that's my bed. You're going to be sitting over there on my couch. And I'm going to be looking at you and talking. And all these other people who are watching us on Facebook right now will be in the room watching with us. And instead of typing over there, one of them will be able to turn and say, I'm sorry, Shel, but I don't understand the question. And we will just be in a more social, we'll virtually be in rooms together. We'll play chess together, although we're separated by 3,000 miles. There's already virtual Frisbee where I throw this and somebody else catches it in Tanganyika, if they have the bandwidth in Tanganyika. So where we are now is it's already breaking out of games. The last two Sundance festivals have shown some remarkable things that going to the place that you and I find is the common ground in which you and I have a friendship is it is changing the nature of storytelling in a way that is new and in some cases better, in some cases worse, but is certainly different.
Well, and it's interesting as you're talking about it has been sort of that, tomorrow, mañana kind of technology because the first iterations were so darn expensive and they were so isolated. And I'm really fascinated to hear you talk about the social aspect because one of the, I think, maybe misconceptions about VR is because we're so used to thinking about expensive hardware, Oculus and these ridiculous price points. And because they are singular, it's a single user, we think it's an isolating experience. We don't think of it as a social experience. And I think it's really going to be very fascinating to see how in an individual user scenario, people are individual, but yet together, and how that will create a social climate for storytelling and experiences. And I think that's really the potential that is there, that I think it just hasn't maybe materialized commercially the way that, I think the promise is there. It just hasn't materialized commercially.
I'll answer that in a second, but Jeff just typed in that he can't hear the show. And I'm wondering if he has a problem or we have a problem or you and I are actually not talking.
Well, I hear you. And
is anybody out there? Well, is anybody out there? If you are, can you hear us?
Jeff, let me know if you're able to hear it or if you can't hear it because you have the sound off and you're just watching the video.
Yeah, if so, we can use sign language or hold up paper.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the question again, Kathy, quickly?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and Jeff, do let us know if it's just that you've got the sound off or you can't hear it. That's going to be an important thing. It really is I guess the question or comment is, that the potential for it being a social experience is so high, and yet it hasn't materialized yet.
Well, it's starting to. There's at Sundance, they have a segment now for 2 years running called the virtual. I forgot what they have, a nice movie sounding thing, but it's the VR Film Festival. And in these films, multiple people wearing headsets watch the same film, but they're immersed in it. They're not separated by a screen. So one goes around and looks over the narrator's shoulder. Another one goes to the back of the room and starts playing with artifacts that are on a shelf. A third person just walks about the house and leaves the action completely. So now we have all these people experiencing the same movie from different perspectives. Jeff just said something, but I didn't catch it because I was so immersed in my own talking. It
says turn your mic on, that might help. Well, the mics are on. The mics
Our mics are on. We can hear each other, Jeff. Could it be something you ate?
Well, yeah, we hear each other, so it might be something on your end, Jeff, maybe. I'm not sure. Let's see here. If anybody else,
Can we blame Microsoft?
Yeah, let's. Anytime you get a chance to blame Microsoft, I think we should. It just seems like that's a good idea. Tell you what, if anybody else can't hear us, let us know. But that will be important. So it
and
might.
If you can hear us, let us know.
Let us know.
Anybody there?
Yeah, we've got a few comments and stuff. People are saying good to see you, and it sounds like from this little device here, people are listening, and
they're hearing us.
I think they're hearing us.
Okay, sorry, Jeff. Sorry, we're going to go on without you.
Yeah, we're just going to keep going. Yeah, no, it seems like people can hear it. So, Heidi Gershel, if you're there, can you hear? Tell you what, if you can hear, go ahead and just type yes. That way we know that it's not an issue on our end. So, but seems like it's coming through. So,
okay, all right. Shall we start over?
Yeah, that's technology for you, right? But that would be important to know.
A couple of other things toward that. One of the reasons Robert and I are so bullish is while it appears to be moving very slowly, it's being pushed by 5 very significant companies. Perhaps you've heard of them: Apple, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and the one who's approaching it from a whole other way but is going in the same direction, Amazon. Then there are these other players, little guys like Sony, Samsung, Huawei, the world's third largest maker of phones. And then you have tens of thousands of developers, and no, they're not all making games where you zap aliens. There's a lot going on in retail, in health, in healthcare, in education in particular, in entertainment. There are plays that are using immersive reality technologies, as I took notes from my book. Sleep No More, which was a play that captured the immersive nature of virtual reality and was a hit for 3 years running on Broadway. There is Alamet and Dear Angelica in the movie things. Excuse me. Penrose Studio is remaking the fairy tales of our childhood. The Little Matchstick Girl is now called Alamet, which I think is kind of a cute name. And they all have this sense of you looking into a dollhouse where the story is going on, except now you can go into it. And soon, within a year or two, you will be able to go in with your playmates or your friends if you're a grown-up. Soon, you'll be able to be watching the same baseball game with your friends through all this. Going back to my big 5, each one of them is trying to stake out just a little bit different position. Facebook, in their March F8, their developers conference, Mark Zuckerberg declared the company they once made a bad movie about called The Social Network to no longer be The Social Network. It is now a social augmented reality platform. What does that mean? Well, it means throwing frisbees with people. It means you and I sitting in the same room while we're just separated. We have, and I'm forgetting the name of it, Robert and I gave a news conference to a bunch of avatars. We were in Redwood City, but the people we were looking at asking us questions right in front of us were from all over the world. Of course, they had a certain similarity because there's only like 5 selections of avatars now. But a year from now, you'll be able to have a personalized avatar. Maybe they'll monetize and let you buy that. But what is happening is the ancient art of storytelling is now adapting to modern technology. And the popularity and the need to share stories is now pulling the technologies behind mixed reality. And so when the need starts pulling the technology, it starts moving faster. You mentioned expensive. Of course it's expensive. It's brand new. Do you realize how silly somebody wearing Oculus Rift is going to look 10 years now when the little kids, some smart business people saying kid stuff, we don't bother with games and kid stuff. course, 10 years from now, those kids, 10 years from now, also when millennials start becoming grandparents, they'll see. But 10 years from now, children who were born after the iPhone was introduced are going to start becoming your main customers. They're going to start becoming your employees, and watch out, they're going to be your competitors.
Yeah.
Their expectation and their experience is going to be mixed reality. It's not going to be the smartphone. I mean, this is really neat. I've got a 6 here. I skipped the 7. I'm waiting for the 8. It's really the state of art today.
Yeah.
But can you imagine how cute and quaint it's going to look when it's next to the first Mac SE, 20 SE?
Yeah.
And they look at the price of it and incidentally, you can still talk in real time on a phone. But why would you do that when I can have you virtually sitting right next to me over here? We can talk through haptic technology. We can even do a fist bump. As a matter of fact, through haptic technology, we can get friendlier than that if we wish to.
Yeah.
But that is where it's going. The issue, the barriers of screens is disappearing. We are going to be able to see and feel and touch and socialize with people who share common interests with us all over the world. We're going to be able to shop with them virtually. We're going to be able to buy things by moving our eyes onto it in a shop window. And it's going to get delivered in our size and the color preference we want. And if you're a Prime customer, you'll probably get it by drone in 2 hours.
Yeah. Or if it's pizza or something. I know they're already experimenting with, drone delivery for lots of things. I'm really curious about this because it seems like a lot of the applications we are hearing, and it's great to hear you describe these other applications, a lot of the ones that we think about as being commercially viable, it is branded content, it is advertising, it is commercial, it is retail. So there's a commerce component. And there's been a little bit of dabbling in storytelling for empathy and social causes and some of these other really, really amazing things. And I'm thinking, it just seems like that's such an area rife for exploration. And
you already have hit 2 issues, so let me try to do both.
Yeah.
Number 1 is I'm a recovering publicist. I'm a recovering marketer. I once went into a restroom window and scribbled, "Don't ask me where I got the lipstick," on the mirror. And I said, "Stop me before I pitch again." So what is going on is technologies advance, marketers come in and think from the same perspective of how can we get this crap in front of the faces and into the ears of the people who don't know how much they're going to love us until we shout it at them.
Right.
And I, for one, take issue. It goes back a long time in the beginning of television. General David Sarnoff, who wasn't really a general, had this vision of bringing opera to the masses. He brought Death of the Salesman to television. He hired Arturo Toscanini to start the NBC Symphony Orchestra. And around the corner, there was a chain-smoking guy by the name of Bill Paley. And he sat there and said, "Screw that crap. We'll give him I Love Lucy and sell him Philip Morris cigarettes." The marketers have a way of monetizing things. I have nothing wrong with that. I would love to monetize what I do more than I do, and Robert even more so than me.
Yeah.
But the issue is that the same old stuff may not be the best way of doing it. What this technology is all about is not a push channel. It's a change of the user experience. And the way you can market in the future is closer to when you're watching a movie and the bad guys on a Windows-based machine, the good guys on an Apple machine, and both were paid for, of course, by Apple. But you can start positioning goods so that, I mean, the way marketing works is different. There's a company called Blipper who's pretty close to, if you're walking down the street with their phone, with their app on their phone, you hold it up, and as you walk by, I look at your sneakers and I see the Nike swoosh. They quickly do an identification. Then they ask me if I want to buy those Nike 4F 978s in my usual size of 17 triple E. They have them in stock just for me. But the way we buy things is going to change. And what has been going on, what people like me have been shouting at since the beginning of social media, is it's in everybody's interest for the user to be in control and not the marketer. And every wave of technology brings this new hope in. So the monetization is a little early to my way of thinking. Other companies have held back on monetization. Companies like, I think you've heard of a few of them, Google.
Just a little.
Facebook. They ended up doing financially okay by creating outrageously great user experiences for the time when they came out. They all started small. I mean, Facebook, look at what it is today, this social platform. It began as a dating book for spoiled college frat boys who couldn't get dates. Thus the name Facebook.
Right. No, and it's a really important point because it seems to me a lot of these capabilities are an extension of an experience. It's sort of like when I watch TV today, I know I'm not alone. I'm also on this thing, and how long will it be that you're watching something and go to this site and maybe you'll experience some kind of AR, maybe an augmented reality kind of thing, or some kind of extension of that experience.
I think Apple will be announcing that in 2 weeks. I forgot the name of Andy Rubin, one of these Renaissance guys who keeps inventing great stuff. He's coming out with a phone, I forgot what it's called, next week. It's May 30th. It's got a 360 camera on it, and it's got AR, VR capabilities. Then we have Apple, who I think is staking its future on the next phone. And ultimately, we don't know if it's going to be announced next week. We have doubts that it will. But this whole thing is going to be all glass. And now when I want to see a movie, I hold this up and the movie comes to life. Now when I want to know about the nutrition in that box of cereal on the shelf, I hold this up and I pull out that information, or it's in my headset. There's going to be multiple ways of using mixed reality, augmented reality. What everybody needs to understand is the big aha is you're not watching it passively. You are in it. You're immersed in it. If you listen to music, you're in the middle of the orchestra pit. The drummer's in the back of my head. Oh, that pounds. It hurts a lot. Over there are the woodwinds, and I kind of like them. And you can put the brass in front of you. I kind of like strings and woodwinds. But we are now going to be able to position ourselves in ways that we see what interests us. We're going to go to a football game in all professional sports, from the PGA to NFL to rugby to cricket. All professional sports are using immersive technologies to enhance the user experience. That doesn't mean we want to know that we can have a savory good hot dog at the half. It means, though, that we may be able to order it in advance and have paid for it simply by ordering it through a headset and have it delivered to us. Now, that's convenience. That changes my experience. And marketers need to think more experientially, because sooner or later, the technology is going to get good enough to filter out the crap, which is what we all want.
It's true. I think everything comes down to the experience. And you just mentioned sports, and WWE has always been ahead of the curve in a lot of these adoption of technologies, and they're phenomenal in the way that they integrate that with their fan base. Because they've really pushed the edges of streaming and all kinds of things. So I have no doubt that these brands will find a way to create more immersive experiences. I want to get to a question here that Mitch raised. Hey, Mitch.
Hi, Mitch. I see him up here on my screen here.
Yes. I brought it up here, and he says, can't wait till all this tech is put into contact lens type of device powered by our bodies. How cool would that be? Will this ever happen?
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
The amount of technology that will take. I began this journey with that envision, but maybe my grandchildren may experience that when they're my age. provided the political situation in the world allows them to live in a world that gets to my age. But
Yeah.
the contact lens and the use of human kinetic energy to generate power isn't anywhere close that Robert and I have seen, and particularly Robert goes in search of such things. The technology, I mean, when you start talking about that contact lens, you have to miniaturize the CPU, GPU, and power source. You have to have it able to use whatever may replace, but today is Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And you have to get that in something that isn't going to heat up. And you have to have something in there that can somehow or other convert body energy into electrical energy. And then it has to be safe to travel from something sitting on the eye into the brain without frying the brain, which is one of the side effects that some people have good reason to worry about moving forward with this. So I don't think it's going to happen soon, but I sure wish it would, because I'm a sci-fi freak to begin with. So
it's a fascinating thing, because that's a great question, Mitch, because I think, while it won't happen today, you're right. I think about it's a great question. I mean, what could happen in, just a few generations from now with that technology? I mean, the way that we're advancing, because the product life cycles and the advances in technology are coming so rapidly, and these product life cycles are getting shorter and shorter and shorter in technology. And it's stunning to me. You read about some of these sort of predictive books, 20, 30 years ago, and a lot of the stuff that they talked about, we're starting to see things coming to fruition because the technology is starting to be there. And even though we don't have a lot of these things commercially viable, I have no doubt that somebody somewhere, some lab Robert's probably talking to, is looking at these exact things.
Well, we've seen some really great stuff in labs, including drone cells that will swim through the body looking for cancer cells and then be able to zap that one cancer cell before it becomes a mass.
Wow.
I'm a diabetic, and I would be able to wear a string, this is probably within 3 years, around my wrist, which is constantly monitoring my blood sugar and adjusting the insulin in my body. Is doing this without me doing anything, but it means that if I look at that pizza, which is one of those things I'm never supposed to eat, and I only eat about once a month, I will be able to do it, and my wrist will say, okay, jack it up, jack it up. and so there are miracles that are going to go on, and health creates its own unintended consequences. Nature right now says that people my age are supposed to start dying now to make room for other people. And those other people are supposed to have the jobs we used to have, which of course robots are taking over, or automation is just eliminating. So we have social implications that go beyond my ability to comprehend. But what I do know is this is going to continue going to wherever it's going, just like Moore's law is going to continue to make things smaller, faster, cheaper. Should we continue? At some point we should not, but we won't stop. We will do what we can. Arthur Clarke, who I'm a fan of, the science fiction writer who I love, once wrote, and it's of times when we use the word man instead of humankind, but he said, man is the one creature that must go beyond. It is what makes us different. And he's right. He's right. Our history is about progress. Right now, the progress is happening rapidly in technology, and it's deteriorating rapidly in terms of governmental structures worldwide.
Yeah, no, it is fascinating, because I think the legislative, we have Mitch here, which is great. It strikes me that the sort of the legislative understanding and the laws aren't keeping pace with technology because they don't understand it. So what you're having is the technology is developing faster than I think the legal frameworks can keep up with and legislate. And every time I talked to years ago when I was working at Excite, and when the COPPA Act was being drafted, legislators really didn't understand the internet then, and they didn't understand messaging technology, and they were legislating on things. And we're in that same boat where the technology is just, it keeps changing, and the legislators who are deciding all these things don't really understand the technology that they're drafting laws for, which is a little bit scary. But that is the pace of change. I think that is so fascinating here.
Mitch just wrote, and he's right, the law usually is about 10 years behind. My favorite story goes back to 1990 when Air Force One was the largest government technology contract ever. They put out bids and they specified exactly what had to be in the computers. And then they bought billions of dollars of equipment that was already obsoleted by new stuff. Brian wants to ask me something.
He does.
If he thinks things like hiking will be replaced by virtual reality, no, Brian. But maybe I could get a robot who won't, shall I say, crap out on me the way you did on my birthday last year.
Ooh. Oh, that's some smackdown, Brian.
That was a human-to-human marketing comment.
Brian, I don't think you have to take that. I don't
Go ahead,
think
Brian. Hit me with your best shot, virtually, that is.
Fire away. Yeah. Oh,
He's smiling. Look at his logo. His icon. He's smiling.
That's hysterical. That's too funny. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Because even though we're going to have these, I know it's funny to think about. We're going to have these virtual experiences in virtual environments, and some of this will be social, but isn't it hilarious because you still can't replace the body's need for exercise? So we're going to have these social things.
Slow down here. Let's talk about some of the things going on. Have you heard about this little AR doodad? It's called Pokemon.
Well, of course.
Okay, now picture this. Picture all these people running all over the place looking for all this stuff that isn't there. In the 60s, you'd get arrested for that behavior. But now we have Pokemon. Now, suppose this is a Scoble idea. I'm stealing it, but don't tell Robert. And that is that the government takes Pokemon and makes it into a national exercise program so that the ones who get the biggest trophies have to move the fastest, work the hardest, go around doing it. And the grand prize winner doesn't pay taxes this year. That's my idea. But
well, there you go.
Let's go back to what I talked about earlier.
I met somebody.
Virtual Frisbee is exercise.
Yeah, There is
all of these sports that we do. We're moving around.
Well,
it isn't sitting and watching like couch potatoes who are now older millennials, like Brian Kramer, for example. Your face is up here, Brian. So I'm going to keep picking on you until somebody else talks.
But you're actually right, because I will tell you. I was going to say at South by Southwest, I met two entrepreneurs who are working on a kind of AR, sort of augmented reality kind of exercise apps that will create, this kind of social way to do exercise.
Which is interesting. People.
Yeah.
There are AR, it goes other ways too, because some exercise machines after the first year get pretty boring. So, wait a minute. Oh, you're laughing. I thought Mitch said something funny. Hiking was just fine for me. I see. Well, I wanted to invite Brian to come make up for the way he hurt me. I have another birthday coming up. This year I'm doing 11 because every year I add on a mile. So if you want to join me, Brian, just the night before, have a very gentle diet. Eat slowly, eat early. Rest up early, and then you're welcome to join me. Okay, but on the exercise,
thrown down the gauntlet. You have
virtual reality is being used for stationary bicycles, for treadmills, for rowing machines, so that when you're rowing, I look at my garage walls when I'm rowing on my machine, but I can now put on a headset and be rowing against the crew on the Thames River during the Great Regattas, or I could be between Lahaina and Kauai going no fried chicken together. You're the only one that got sick, Brian. Now stay off of my screen. You're interrupting the story.
He's making it interesting. He's adding a human layer, which I like.
Well, he is, but is everybody else seeing what he's saying, or is it just you, me, and Brian?
Well, it's Mitch is in there commenting, but
yeah. Well,
but,
okay.
But,
okay,
no, but
okay, Brian, I'm going to go on. So sit there and be quiet and keep your fingers off the keyboard. Okay, thank you.
It's me actually showing them.
Well, I'm saying something serious, and you're cracking up, and then I'm looking up and saying, "What's Brian doing?" This would be much better in virtual reality, where I could put a virtual pie into his real face.
You know what? Virtual humor. I am looking forward to the day when there is like a virtual humor experience and I can see the audience in 360. That's going to be cool.
Well, as an entertainer, don't you really crave an augmented audience who will laugh when you want them to and look serious when you want them to? It never happens that way when you're improvising.
No, never does. Never does. But no, your point, I would get back to your point. It's such an important one. I think it seems like there's so many things that are coming out of AR and these mixed reality and VR types of group things where you still have the community, you still have the exercise, and you still have this space that's been experienced, has been enhanced because of the technologies. But it feels like to me that AR, and this is, I'd love to hear your thought on this. AR is a little bit more immediate augmented reality than some of the VR stuff that is being talked about. It's a little bit more immediate in commercialization. Am I understanding that right? Or what's your thought on that?
I disagree.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Albert Marugi had a good question, but I forgot what it was because it disappeared. Training. Okay. So let me back up and give a little longer answer to this. Don't do it, Israel. Surely VR, great. How he said that already. What happened to the other thing he said about don't do it, Israel? Is this a pro-Arab comment? Oh, don't do it in Israel is not what he said. Okay. Yes, Albert. I'll take. Does everybody see this, or should I read it to the audience?
They're seeing it, but it doesn't hurt to read it.
Okay. There is the danger that whatever good the technology does, the attempts to monetize it will corrupt the benefits, or you will get the benefits, but there'll be a yes, but. In case of health insurance, if you just took that little cell that's looking for cancer in your body, your health insurance could go up. Yes, that's correct.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But as far as the monetization question that you asked earlier, Kathy, VR and AR are taking off in different ways. Mm-hmm. VR is taking off in games and entertainment. Just games is different. When you add entertainment, you're talking about sports, movies, theater. Yeah. You're talking about the things we do to escape where we are, and we have a better way of doing it. Mm-hmm. It's primitive, yet the socialization is difficult. Mm-hmm. I've done some of the social things, and they're kind of weird. I've got the thing I did at South by Southwest, but I went through with a companion, and for a while we were virtual dinosaurs, and we grunted at each other, and then later we were virtual something else. We were birds, and we chirped at each other, and that was fun, but we didn't really have much of a conversation.
Yeah.
At the same time, we have commercial applications from a company like MindMaze, which taps 32 sensors in a fishnet over the brain and puts something in front of you that looks like Maxwell Smart would wear, and costs thousands and thousands of dollars. But hospitals are using it to cure, not treat, cure schizophrenia and treat Parkinson's, spinal damage, trauma, the pain of losing a limb. Virtual reality is being used to, let me just run through a bunch of these. These are all monetization models in augmented reality. Mm-hmm. Eni, one of the world's largest energy companies, you don't hear about them because they don't have a retail brand like Exxon does, but they are using virtual reality to train workers before they go out into oil rigs so that they know how to fight an oil rig fire if one happens on the North Sea.
Wow. Yeah.
Students all over the world are starting to take tours of Buckingham Palace and the White House. In the near-term future, when you hear the number 1066, and if you're my age, you'll know that was the Battle of Hastings, and you have not a clue what happened. You just knew the B, 1066, was the Battle of Hastings, and you got it right on the test. Now you'll go to the Battle of Hastings, and you'll see, I think it was Richard the Lionheart. I'm not really sure, but Richard wasn't on my test. You will experience things, you will understand that, and maybe war won't be quite as much exciting and fun, and it will appear to be different than zapping aliens in VR. Yeah. So in shopping, we have virtual makeup coming from Sephora. We have a holodeck where you can pick out what the fixtures would look like in your own kitchen while you're in a Lowe's. This is all just starting. It's still clumsy, but there are so many companies working on it. We know of an insurance company who is using virtual reality to see if they can change lifestyle habits of people, of their customers. We have another company that's trying to figure out how to use mixed reality for data visualization so that we can solve problems in data and find flaws in algorithms much faster through visualization.
That's fascinating, yeah.
So anywhere you turn, there are first movers. Robert and I have just started this company, and we realized after the first, we won't say who we saw, but several companies were going in, talking about helping them make the transformation into mixed reality, and they asked us for use cases. And no, we're looking for the thought leaders, and we know we're talking there with companies that are going to wait and see. It doesn't hurt yet. They have to make their quarter. They have all these other issues. There's all this other technology coming out, from digital wallets to whatever. Why should we worry about this right now? All we're hearing about is games. And the answer is manyfold, and we need more companies to see it for the next leaps to come, because we need first movers.
Yeah.
They're going to be the thought leaders. They're going to be companies right now who are doing just fine. We won't bother with that. Just like Sears was one of the companies, I believe, that banned social media from employee usage. I think there are a whole bunch of companies that used to be recognized brands that disappeared during earlier transformations.
Yeah.
Wang, word processing is all people want to use. DEC, personal computers are just toys. During these transformations, major brands disappear. They become unimportant. And someone you never heard of, Facebook, Apple, Google, they become very important. They become central to lives. You wonder how you could have ever lived. I mean, do you realize we have an entire generation that's achieved adulthood without knowing what the Dewey Decimal System is? Is this a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah.
So we're in a transformation, and the companies that are going to make sense aren't going to be asking about, well, what's the use case? How do we monetize this? They're going to be the ones to get their feet into the ocean of change first.
It's kind of the price. Yeah, no, it's interesting, because you're right. I mean, there's so many applications, many of them training. It's sort of the price of admission. You're going to have to. You do need to think about monetization, but you need to be experimenting and thinking about how this will change your business anyway. Even
how will it change your relationship with your customers, your own employees,
totally,
and your position against your competitors?
Totally.
And also think future forward. We think 2 or 3 years, but let's say it's 10 years, which is what the cynics are saying, right? 10 years from now, the oldest millennials will be 50 and they will start becoming grandparents. Under that, we see a new generation. We call them Minecrafters. Now, what's important to them? Okay, a few things. They can code before they go into kindergarten.
Yeah.
Some of them can code before they learn to spell, but who needs to know how to spell? We have spell check.
Okay. True. Emojis. We have emojis, so we don't even know how to write.
When they do something cool, they don't think of an intellectual property lawyer. They post it to YouTube so other people can use it for free.
Yeah.
Okay. What else, though, which is the most important thing, is teaching kids to think in 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
Not 2, 3.
Yeah.
And when you're going to try to communicate with them as customers or employees or whatever, you need that 3D experience.
Well, let's talk about.
Wait, I'm not done. Wait, there's more. Throw away the potato peeler and the grater.
I'm gonna go get something to drink, and I'll just come back when you're done.
Yeah, I just want to say,
love you, Shel.
We're now seeing another generation that is coming along after our Minecrafters. They're only 5 years old now. One of them was at Robert's house as a house guest. Robert had his HTC Vive laying on the floor. She picked it up, she put it on, and somehow or other she started playing Alchemy, which is the world's most popular VR children's game. But she started playing it. She just knew what to do. She put it on. She picked up the controllers. She knew what to do. We call them the immersives. We could also call them the ZPCs because they're ZLCs. They have a zero learning curve. They just know it. The technology is getting so good that young people just know it. And you're going to tell them to look at that comparison chart on the paper on the wall. Well, that's swell. Good luck.
Well, we've got some comments I want to get to.
Okay.
So we'll just take them here in order. I want to make sure this is the interactive part of our thing here. So this is
great, because you and I are so flat paneled, you know, we need some interaction.
That's right.
Mitch is back with another comment too. Yes, teaching in 3D, not just children, but training adult employees is one of the killer apps. It excites me.
As Albert talks about here, and it covers your face, which is kind of interesting. You look like the guy from
I have more to say to
Home
Mitch.
Improvement.
Can I just finish my sentence?
Sure.
Yesterday, I talked with a 19-year-old Stanford student who has created a software that works on Google Cardboard, which is the lowest cost VR you have. Mm-hmm. And he's designing educational programs for poor kids because he comes from a poor school district, but now he's at Stanford, so obviously he upgraded himself. So we believe that VR is going to change the way children in impoverished areas and third world places will be learning what they need to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'll stop interrupting you.
Are you done now? Can I talk on my show? Can I actually get a sentence in here? Can I do that?
I'm sorry, your time is up.
All right. Okay.
I'm sorry. I will sit here. I will be good.
I'm going to go get something to eat, and I'll come back in 10 minutes. And,
now, if you believe that I will now behave myself, Kathy, then I would like to sell you this bridge I own in Brooklyn.
Everybody, I have known Shel probably, a dozen years? I've known you probably about that since Society of New Communications Research was formed. So this is just how we relate. This is just our friendship and our love. Don't worry about it. So Albert's comment here for you, Shel. He talks about, and it goes to what you were saying before about training for adults and how a lot of this kind of, unfortunately, might be used to replace lower skilled workers, but maybe retrain them too. Yeah. I'm
sorry, I got lost in thinking of things I could say to Albert, who I've known longer than you, and might get even nastier with him. Robert, you've called me many things in your life, but don't ever call me a Republican again. Yes, what were you saying, Kathy? I'm sorry I let you talk, but I forgot to listen. Okay, I'm covering up Albert, so whatever he says, I won't hear it.
All right, I'm going
to have my exclusive attention. Do I have any black temp around
here? He loves you. He's expressing his love. We all love you. There we go. There we go. So we'll go. I'm just going down the comments here. Right. Thank you, Albert. It's fun to give Shel grief. We love doing that. All right.
I said you had the floor, Kathy. I'm waiting.
Okay. I don't know. I'm just okay. So, all right, your comment there about your son take off, fly, and land a plane. Wow. because of gaming. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Well, it's always been used, I think, for simulation in flight and by government. My husband has worked at NASA, and there's been a lot of advanced uses by the government, the military, and VR and even AR and a lot of these things. And Magic Leap is working on a lot of movie and military applications. But it's fascinating to me to what you were describing, Shel, is how training and education for the mainstream, not just military and all this, work applications, but our kids. I mean, imagine kids being able to study history in 3D and to be immersed in this environment. And maybe what it will do for learning would be truly amazing,
Revolutionary.
So, yeah. Yeah. No, it blows my mind that little 5 and 6-year-old kids you're describing are so literate. I don't know what that generation, did you give them a name, Shel? Did you describe what they're called?
The youngest one we call the immersives, because they can pick this up and be immersed in a virtual world, and they're comfortable in it.
It's fascinating. No, it blows my mind. It really does blow my mind. Thank you, Mitch. And okay, Albert's saying he's saying he owes you a beer for that. So that's good as gold.
He did not say when I will get that beer. And I think I have to travel to the tundra on my own dime to get the beer. So thanks a lot, Albert.
People love giving you grief. That's because they express love. That's what that is.
I don't know why, because I'm so gracious and reserved myself.
Exactly. There's nothing cranky at all about you. That's a really that's fascinating. Can you imagine doing trial lawyer training and law students about what it would be like to actually make an opening and closing argument to the jury? And how cool would that be, Mitch? That's a really fascinating application for MR. Yeah. So here's my question. There's so many great things, and I love listening to you because it blows my mind how much is actually being developed out there. But a lot of the things that we're talking about seem very expensive, and a lot of companies with big resources, deep wallets, deep pockets are working on this stuff. So what does the average company out there think about how it will affect them? What should they be thinking about when it comes to enhancing experiences with the MR? Because we are talking about the vanguard being led by, obviously, the deep pocket companies. So what do they got to be thinking about?
Everything. First of all, new things are always expensive, and then they get cheaper. And the cheaper they get, the more people adopt. Yeah. In the case of virtual reality, you could argue that it's come the other way, because probably 95% of the VR headsets in use are Google Cardboards, which are very limited in functionality, and I don't think provide a very lovable experience. But you can imagine lots of inexpensive ways of doing it. All over the world, there are innovation studios. The most famous is one of our partners, which is Groove Jones in Dallas, and their roots are in special effects in Hollywood, so they're good. And their clients include little companies you may have heard of, like Nike and McDonald's. And so that's big time stuff. But what they're doing will be doable by a company with some money in a short while. The biggest department store chain in Australia, which is not so big, I think there's 6 stores, is using virtual reality to let their customers, to let people all over the world buy from off their shelves in the Australian stores. And considering coming from Australia, it's offering free shipping, which probably exceeds the price of the goods being purchased. But there are all sorts of ways. The first thing you have to do is use the stuff. Don't just watch a program like this. Go use the stuff. Go to a conference. Go to a show. Go somewhere and try it on. I shouldn't say this. I should say read my book. But you can read my book and take several hours, or you can go use the stuff and in 15 minutes get the point of what it's going to do. Mm-hmm. And the next thing you should do is, from a business point of view, say those 3 glorious words. You mean I can? I always say you mean, but it's 4 words. You mean I can? Then you start figuring out what can be done. And then somebody will come in and you say, well, that's too expensive. What if? And that second question allows you to do something that, if it works, you can go back up to you mean I can. But if you sit around and say, nope, not for me. Nope, no social media here. And typewriters work just fine. And what's wrong with groceries being delivered on a bicycle? Actually, it's a pretty cool idea. But, it's the world changes. The customer's expectation changes. And if you start with the monetization, you're going to delay your ability to get to monetization. You need to figure out what works on the simplest level, not the most complex level for your business. If you're a hotel chain, I don't expect any of you to do what Robert and I would love to do for you, because we could create the augmented reality hotel that begins online, where somebody puts on glasses and they walk through your hotel before they're actually leaving their home, and they see what the room they're about to rent from you looks like. They see the view out the window. They listen at the walls and see what sounds are coming through. And then when the person arrives, to get greeted at the door by somebody who already knows the preferences in food, beverage, whether you're likely to want to use the spa or the swimming pool or just sit at the bar or whatever.
Yeah.
So every step of the way, you can use this stuff. And I would never tell a hotel to plan to do that. I would suggest that they put up a little kiosk in one hotel in the lobby with maybe 4 headsets in it. You pick the ones, because I don't know what's going to be the best ones a year from today or 2 years from today when you get around to implementing. And see what you can do with customers who are trying them on for the first time. And while they're learning about the technology, you're learning about the customers. Yeah. And that's the way I would approach it.
It's a great answer. It is a great answer. You can't ignore it. You can't ignore it, even if you don't have the big budget to do stuff. I think that it's such a beautiful thing. It also strikes me that the potential for storytelling itself fundamentally changes, because we're going from a 2D world of storytelling to an immersive part of the story. So that wall, we call it in performing, you've heard me say it.
Yeah.
We're busting that 4th wall. We're breaking the 4th wall. And that's literally the title of your book, The 4th Transformation. We are taking that 4th wall down, and the audience is part of the story. So we are fundamentally shifting how storytelling will work.
Yes, we are.
It blows my mind. It blows my mind. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff, everybody. Mitch has a question. What kind of clients or businesses can we send Shel Israel's way?
Ones with money. No. We're looking.
Which is ideal. That's an ideal.
Money is always appropriate.
Yes.
No, seriously. We are looking in 2 diverse areas, and it makes sense why we're doing this. We're looking at big brands who are trying to get educated as to what's going on and need help in figuring out what the real and pragmatic possibilities are. Yeah. The second side is we're looking at startups that are using mixed reality to change the world. Mm-hmm. And the Stanford student that I just mentioned is starting a company, doesn't have financing yet, which is somewhat of a setback. But we love the fact that he has a vision for how lower income people of the world will be educated in the future, that evens the playing field a little more when it comes to education. That's the kind of thing that excites us about a startup. We are not interested in another startup that has a VR game that lets you zap aliens, but this time with a purple ray gun instead of a blue one.
Yeah.
So those are the two pockets we're looking at. We see ourselves as advisors for the startups, and we see ourselves as strategists for the big brands. Thank you for asking, Mitch.
It's a great question.
Kathy didn't.
I was getting there. Well, excuse me. I was getting the food caught by Steve Martin. Thank you, Mitch. It is a great question. And I was going to say I could listen to Shel all day because, in fact, I think I have on my show. Shel knows I love him.
Kathy,
I love Shel.
Watch this virtual glass of water come in.
Shel knows I adore him. It's just, this is fascinating stuff, and thank you for that question, Mitch. And it's, in all seriousness, I was going to ask it, and that is exactly the question to ask. So, Shel, where can people in non-virtual reality for 2D right now? Where can they go experience you and go find out more? Where do you want to send them? About you.
Okay. About the company, we're at transformationgroup.io, as in IO. It's off to consulting I go, but just with 2 letters, the short way. Or you can reach me on Facebook Messenger at Shel Israel. That's SHEL, 1 L, 2 L's would be hell with an S in front. So it's SHEL. ISRAEL, or Shel Israel, the number 1, because I'm the only Shel Israel, at gmail.com. So any of those 3 work, and I'd love to hear from anybody. I'm sitting here alone waiting.
The hotline is open. The book is The Fourth Transformation. It is a great book, and I don't know if the world is quite ready for Shel Israel in 4D. Is the world ready for like an immersive Shel Israel experience? I don't know. There you go. Oh man, I've missed you. I've missed you, and this has been fun. Please go check out the book, everybody. It is an amazing book, and I have to bring you back. Because I'm fascinated, and I always learn from you because there's so much more happening in AR and VR than I even know, because you guys are talking to people every day, and the stuff that isn't maybe commercially viable now, but will be just around the corner, blows my mind. And I think the big thing I do hope people take away, besides your book and check you out, which they should do, is really how fundamentally this is going to change storytelling. So as Shel says, even if you are not creating this type of immersive content yet, you have to understand it is the price of admission for the future. You've got to understand how that is going to fundamentally change the way that we're approaching storytelling with that 2D mentality. So with that, you can also get my book. I mean, this is sort of anticlimactic. You can get my book, Stop Boring Me, on Amazon, and I'm at keepingithuman.com.
Is it true that you had me in mind when you picked that title?
You truly inspired the title. You truly did. No.
What was that?
You truly inspired that title. You're so inspired.
I got to go read my train schedule now, Kathy.
Shel, it's been too long. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, everybody, Mitch and Brian and Albert and Heidi and Imran and Jeff and everybody. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend holiday. Thanks, Shel.
Make it memorable.
You too, my friend.
And Brian, watch what you eat.
Yes, that's there you go. All right, much love, everybody. Love you, Shel.
Bye.